Hello readers, it's Andrea, and this is my first official book review on this channel. I am very excited, honestly. I know it's not the most exciting video for people to watch, I guess, but I'm not gonna go too in depth. I'm gonna say what I felt about the book and the rating I gave it and why I liked it, and I have a ton of sticky notes to go through. So yeah, it's a rainy day. I'm absolutely freezing. I wasn't. Now I am, now that I'm home from school. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of get right into it. So the book I'm reviewing, if you can't read, is Tuesdays with Morrie, An Old Man, a Young Man, and Life's Greatest Lesson by Mitch Albom. Each of these tabs has a different meaning. I will be going through them in order to the best of my ability. I think I'll do the pink ones first and then go through them, or I might not, but we'll see. I haven't decided, so if you didn't know, I wing these videos when I start to record them. I didn't think I was going to like this book as much as I did when I started it. I'm in AP English, the non-honors, regular Regents 12 class, was reading this. Let's see, I thought it was going to be really cheesy. I thought it was going to be overly sweet. In a way, it kind of was, but at the same time it wasn't. And maybe it's because, I've dealt with sick family members and stuff, but I don't know, I just genuinely enjoyed this. So basically, the storyline of this, it is a nonfiction, I don't really want to call it a memoir. Whatever. It's a simple story. Very quick to read. Honestly, you could probably read this in a day if you wanted to. I didn't because I'm busy. I'm a high school senior who's taking 3 college classes right now. So get on my level, honestly. I'm just kidding. Anyways, so it is about this man named Morrie. He's an older guy. By older, I mean old. Maybe 70 something. I don't know his actual age. I probably should. That's probably important. He gets diagnosed with ALS. Morrie is Mitch's old college professor. Mitch, after college, he was very, very close to Morrie. They had a really deep connection as teacher and student. Mitch said, "I'm never going to have an office job. I'm never going to settle down." And basically, he does settle down. He does have a very he does some writing for sports, so he gets to travel and stuff, but he works, he writes, and that's fine. But basically, he's sitting one night, and he's watching, I think it was Dateline. I could be wrong. I'll probably see it in here, and it'll dawn on me. But, and Morrie is on it, and he decides he needs to go visit his old college professor and start seeing him every Tuesday, and they talk about the meaning of life. So, like I said, all these different tabs mean something. I am going to go through them. The first thing I'm going to do is these orange tabs because they're just my favorite quotes from the books. So, we are going to go through them in the best order as possible. And I'm just going to read off some of my favorite quotes from this book. And it's ABC TV's Nightline. I have got it. It is right up here. This book is fully annotated, fully highlighted, and I will be taking out the tabs as I go through them because someone is borrowing this book, and as much as I spent time on this, I only really did it to do this book review for my booktube, so I'm not really that worried about it. So the first quote I have is, "Accept what you are able to do and what you are not able to do. Accept the past as past without denying it or discarding it. Learn to forgive yourself and to forgive others. Don't assume that it's too late to get involved." Morrie, was writing. He would write, even in, his younger years. I shouldn't say that. When he first got diagnosed with ALS in the earlier, stages, he would write down little bite-sized philosophies about living with death's shadow. So that's just one of them. Let's see. "Coach," he says, this is Morrie. "Coach," he says, "all right, I'll be your coach, and you can be my player. You can play all the lovely parts of life that I'm too old for now." I honestly just thought that was really sweet. Mitch would call him coach, and it was a coach-player type of dynamic. And honestly, I thought that was really sweet. I'm honestly just rapid firing through these because this is not the important thing. Dying, Morrie suddenly said, is one thing to be sad over, Mitch. Living unhappily is something else. So many of the people who come to visit me are unhappy. Is this the next tab? Definitely not. Let's try this one. Next time, maybe this will be a little bit more organized. Life is a series of pulls back and forth. You want one thing, but you are bound to do something else. Something hurts you, yet you know it shouldn't. You take certain things for granted, even when you know you should never take anything for granted. A tension of opposites, like a pull and rubber band, and most of us live somewhere in the middle. Boop, 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 boop. The culture we have does not make people feel good about themselves, and you have to be strong enough to say if the culture doesn't work, don't buy it. That is actually one of my favorites in here. Like, that one kind of like stuck with me. So many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep even when they're busy doing things that they think are important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get meaning into your life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. I believe this one's next. Maybe death is the great equalizer, the one big thing that can finally make strangers shed a tear for one another. We're Tuesday people, he said. Tuesday people, I repeated. Morrie smiled. The most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and to let it come in. Let it come in. We think we don't deserve love. We think that if we let it in, we become too soft. But a wise man named Levine said it right. He said love is the only rational act. That would remind me of Perks of Being a Wallflower, which, if you didn't know, that is one of my all-time favorite books. I've read it like 5 times. Like, we just all deserve love, and it's crazy that a lot of people don't let it in, like, for whatever reason. I mean, honestly, I have, like, trust issues and stuff. I just think that it's so important to, like, be able to let your walls down once you've healed, type of thing. He smiled. Not everyone is so lucky. I studied him in his chair, unable to stand, to wash, to pull on his pants. Lucky? Did he really say lucky? Basically, ALS, if you didn't know, it kind of, like, it, like, makes it so you can stop really moving. I'm not 100% sure on the specifics of ALS. I read books. I'm not a doctor. I would definitely look it up. If I were my beautiful subscriber, viewer, whatever you are. But he's not able to do anything, and he still thinks that he's lucky because he's happy and he has, like, this support group around him. And I think that that is important as well. Teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. That is actually a quote by Henry Adams put into the book. And I just absolutely love that one. Like, I feel really lucky to have the relationships that I have had with my teachers. Honestly, I mean, I struggle with school, like, not grades-wise, but, like, showing up and, like, socially. So, I mean, obviously it's great that I can identify that, but, like, just having that relationship with the teacher is something that you can't duplicate. You can't have that type of relationship with anyone else, and it's so important, and it can get so many different kids through schools. And honestly, I wish all my teachers were like Miss Nielsen or Mr. Hayes or Mr. Poutre, and, you know, there's just a lot, and yeah, I think it's important. Next quote. Everyone knows they're going to die, he said again, but nobody believes it. If we did, we would do things differently. Once you learn how to die, you learn how to live, which I think that is absolutely true, especially after reading this. Like, once you get comfortable with the idea of death, you're, like, living your life to the fullest and not taking any second for granted. Especially people who, like, I found, like, have diseases. I say like a lot. I'm gonna stop. But take Morrie, for example. He has this horrible disease, and he can stay positive, and he's comfortable with the idea of death, and he isn't taking his moments for granted. And that's how everyone should live. Do not stop your lives, he told them, otherwise this disease will have ruined 3 of us instead of 1. So I think he was talking to his kids, just saying, you know, don't let my disease stop your way of life. And I think that's really important too. So many people, like, they stop everything they're doing when they find out that someone has a horrible disease, which is, like, that's great. They need that support system and stuff, but you need to take care of yourself too, and, like, make sure that everything is in check. And it's equally, like, as overwhelming, but it's not, you know, like, it wouldn't be as tolling, I guess. I don't know. That's just more like a lot of this is observation, like my commentary right now. You can't substitute material things for love, or for gentleness, or for tenderness, or for a sense of comradeship. Devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. That was one of my favorites in the whole book. The big things, how we think, what we value, those you must choose yourself. You can't let anyone or society determine those for you. These last ones I think were all my favorite, even though they're the last ones in the book. Love each other or die. That's a very simple one. We also need to forgive ourselves. Ourselves? Yes, for all the things we didn't do, all the things we should have done. You can't get stuck on the regrets of what should have happened. That doesn't help when you get to where I am. That is also one of my favorites. I skipped over this one. We saw each other as much more alike. We might be very eager to join in one big human family in this world, and to care about that family the way we care about our own. Those are all my favorite quotes. I just really wanted to rapid fire read them off and kind of give my 2 cents in with it. So that already took a lot of our sticky notes out, because a lot of the things I highlighted were just quotes that I really liked. The next one I'm going to do is these purple ones, which are questions that I had that didn't get answered, and I will talk about the events surrounding those questions. There are not that many questions, and obviously it's not that big of a deal. I think this is the first one. Yes, okay. So the quote that I underlined said, "Before college, I did not know the study of human relations could be considered scholarly. Until I met Morrie, I didn't believe it." So Morrie taught sociology, which I'm also taking sociology right now. It's okay. I'm not in love with the teacher, but I like the class, like what we're learning. And I wrote, how is it not scholarly? Like, I don't know, taking sociology and like my knowledge of sociology prior to it, I think that's like something that only like really smart people can comprehend. Like, it's so hard to like wrap your head around some of these theories, and like thinking, why are things the way they are? Like, that's just crazy, and it gives me a headache almost. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, why does he not think it's scholarly? That never got answered. Next thing. So I underlined, so much food, he's saying. Well, now you have to eat it with me. So, this is more of a comment than a question. Morrie basically, he had to eat very slowly. It was hard for him to eat. He could start choking very easily. My septum ring was crooked. But every time Mitch came over, he would bring him food, like different foods to try. So I wrote, he accepts the food with such a positive attitude here, even when he struggles to eat it. Is that a metaphor for more? So I was just thinking, like, obviously this is true, but could that be a metaphor for more? You know, let's talk about his disease as a whole for a minute, which I think is what I was thinking here. Like, he got his diagnosis, and instead of being like, oh, this sucks, like, I'm gonna die, like, that's it for me, like, it's gonna paralyze me and I'm gonna die, he, like, took it and accepted it and thought about it, even though it's a struggle to have the disease. And I think that's what I was really getting at there. Like, is that a metaphor for more with his disease? Boop, boop, boop. Next tab, the quote is, Morrie sighed, nobody can know it but me, Ted, but I know it. And I said, many people who are dying say it's a feeling, and they just know it's their time. How must that feel? That could have also probably gone, like, with something that really got in my feelings, because it's like, how must it feel to, like, be comfortable with death? Because I'm not, like, just getting older and aging and stuff. And this book put a new perspective on it, but it's still something, like, you know, people have to work with it. It's a common fear. But how do you, like, just know that it's your time? And that was really my question. That's not really, I don't even know why I tabbed that, because I didn't really need to talk about that. Let's see. This part talked about how Morrie, his mother recently died, I don't remember from what, and then his brother ended up getting polio. And I said, could you imagine your mother, like, just recently died and your brother got polio, and just, like, how devastating that is. But this man is, like, such a positive person, and that's crazy to me, because, like, such a mini thing goes wrong, and, yeah, you just get that negative mindset. And one of the reasons I really like this, and I'll talk about it more collectively at the end. Right now I'm just trying to, like, rapid fire through my tabs. Just, just this positive attitude and like the impact that this book has. I don't even know where I was going because I've read what I've underlined. This just mentions how Morrie worked in a mental hospital, and at this point we're a little bit more than halfway through the book, and I'm trying to figure out why it wasn't mentioned before. Even after reading the chapter, there wasn't a reason why that couldn't have been mentioned. Again, not a big deal. This is the last thing it says. During like the civil rights movement, Morrie was a teacher, and it just talks about how teachers chose discussions over lectures, experience over theory. They sent students to the Deep South for civil rights projects and the inner city for field work. They went to Washington for protest marches, and Morrie often rode the buses with the students, how they didn't really give the students grades. Like, there was just a lot of stuff going on. And I said, are more colleges still like this today because of the past or because colleges are typically liberal institutions? That was more, like, a lot of colleges that, like, I've heard of, because I only, like, I have a friend in college, and obviously I take college classes, but we do a lot of more discussions than just getting lectured at, and a lot more experience and hands-on stuff. And I was just wondering, like, I mean, not all colleges might not be like that, but my knowledge of colleges, you know, that's just how it is run. Not all the time, not with every class, but with, like, some classes, like English, I found we have discussions more than getting lectured at. And I'm just, like, curious, is that why colleges are the way they are today? So, these last two tabs are going to take me another minute. This is where we're getting into the actual, like, analysis of the book more. So now that I've rapid fired through my other things, I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I thought it was emotional. I did cry at the end. Obviously, it's not a spoiler. You know Morrie's going to die. But just the way it's written is really nice. I wouldn't go out of my way and call it beautiful. I wouldn't go out of my way and say this is the best book that I've ever read. But the message of it is just so positive. And, you know, I went on Goodreads, and there were people who didn't like this, and I can't figure out why. And there's people in the other classes who are just like, oh no, like, I don't like this for this, that, or the other reason. And I can't wrap my head around it. So, I am going to get to these last two tabs, and then I'll talk for a minute about how this video is really long, because I'm seeing my time, and what's going on in life. So, I'm going to start with these pink tabs because there's less, and it's more about my feelings than it is the actual analysis of the book. These green tabs are my further discussion tabs, so this is the important thing. I believe this is the first tab. I've been wronged. Nope, this one. Yep, okay. Let's go. Okay. I'm gonna read, if I didn't say it, because I know I didn't, I just am reading the paragraph around what I underlined, and then I'll say whatever I wrote, because now we're getting into the real, like, annotating and highlighting and stuff. I did what I had become best at doing. I attended to my work even while my dying professor waited on his front lawn. I'm not proud of this, but I did. Basically, Mitch showed up, and he had, like, a call for work, and he literally sat in his car and waited until he got off the phone to go see his professor. And honestly, I'm glad that the author, Mitch, we'll call him Mitch, it's easier, he was man enough to write, yeah, no, that's what I did, and I'm not proud of that, but that's what I did. I just think that doesn't really put me in my feels, but I guess in a way it does. Then Mitch asks himself here, what happened to me? Like, how did my life get to this? So I said, I'm young, so I can't relate to this now. I'm, in a way, like, I still can. Like, would child me be proud of the teenager and the young adult I've become? Which, in a way, yeah, but we're not going to get into a therapy session here. And then I said, yeah, I feel like many middle-aged plus some middle-aged and older people ask themselves this, and I think it's sad. Like, to really think, why am I here type of thing, and what happened. And it just, like, doesn't help with that fear of aging, you know? So, Mitch is there. He just got to Morrie's house, and Morrie's chilling on his front porch, and Mitch comes up, and he says, Coach, I said, suddenly remembering the nickname. And Morrie beamed, that's me, I'm still your coach. And I don't know why that made me so emotional. It might just be the way it's written, but it's just, like, overly sweet, and I'm not usually a sap for that, but the way this book is written, like I said, is just so much better. This just says, and I suppose tapes like photographs and videos are a desperate attempt to steal something from Death's suitcase, and I 100% agree with that, especially like photographs. I believe there he was talking about, he tape recorded their conversations on Tuesdays, so I believe that's what he was talking about there. I could be wrong, and now that I flipped the page, I'm not going back. I think in light of what we've been talking about all these weeks, family becomes even more important, he said. This is their fifth Tuesday, they're talking about family, and I wrote, family comes closer when facing death and sometimes split after death. When my great-grandmother, I was in 7th grade, she passed away. She was really like the heart of the family, and the family was really close when she just wasn't doing well anymore. And, it was her time, and then after that, no one really talks to each other anymore. So I 110% like had to comment on that one. Mitch says to Morrie here, I've never had another teacher like you, they all said. I lied. This is what Morrie is saying, like, about what his students. This is what happens when you don't read the context and you think you know what you're talking about. I wrote, you never forget teachers who make an impact. They're so important to success and happiness, and they don't get the credit they deserve. I already talked about that, so I'm not going to talk about more of it. And the last feels tab, that's literally what it said. I put in my feels and highlighted in pink. It's the 7th Tuesday. We talk about the fear of aging, which I actually highlighted a lot of for myself, so I'm not going to get into it that much. But Morrie now had to have someone wipe him after he went to the bathroom. And I couldn't imagine that. And he just took it in such, like, I'm not saying he was proud of it, but he just kind of, like, took it. Like, he was fine with it. So, here's the tabs we're all excited to get to. My further discussion tab. So, it's like the real part of the review here. No questions, just answers. So, the first thing I annotated was the first paragraph, which says, the last class of my old professor's life took place one week in his house by a window in the study where he could watch a small hibiscus plant shed its pink leaves. The class met on Tuesdays. It began after breakfast. The subject was the meaning of life. It was taught from experience. And I wrote, I'm already in love with this writing style and the flow and the story. It's a very powerful beginning. And I honestly thought that it was actually going to be about, like, college kids going to Morrie's house and taking a class just from that. I was wrong, so I actually really like that metaphor. I'll let you talk about more here, so let's just read this. So, it says, the last class in my old professor's life had only one student. I was the student. So I wrote, the beginning really hooks the reader. It's written beautifully. It makes you want to read more. The metaphor of this man's life with the young man to a class is very strong. That's all I have to say. I don't really have to elaborate on that. A lot of what I wrote, I don't really have to elaborate on. If I feel like I do, I will. Otherwise, this video is getting pretty long, and I still have a decent amount to get through. So, stay tuned. I was failing for the first time in my life. That's what I highlighted. Oh, this is just about, basically, Mitch wanted to create music, and, well, let me just read it. The world I discovered was not all that interested. I wandered around my early 20s, paying rent and reading classifieds, and wondering why the lights were not turning green for me. My dream was to be a famous musician. I played the piano. But after several years of dark, empty nightclubs, broken promises, bands that kept breaking up, and producers who seemed excited about everyone but me, the dream soured. Can't read. I was failing for the first time in my life. And so to that I wrote, this is something almost everyone can relate to. I feel like it's important to include this line for the emotion and the realness of the book. Sometimes nonfiction doesn't seem real. And obviously I wrote that, so I agree with it. But it really is stuff that some people can relate to. Like, there's points where you just realize I'm not good enough to make it. And there are the people who continue to try to get better, and then there's the people who look at it more realistically. And I found the older I get, the more I look at it realistically, which, like, kind of sucks in its own way. But, don't give up your dreams, like, necessarily. But, if you want to be a pianist, or however you say it, and you can't play the piano very well, then maybe it's time for a different career path. And, I don't know, it's just, like, giving that real perspective on things, I think is really important in this book, and without it, it would be way too cheesy. All the advice in it is 100% like honest. It's not sugar-coated. We're just gonna keep going. I highlighted, I hope that one day you will think of me as your friend. I think Mitch said that. Yeah. Nope, Morrie said that to Mitch. So I said, this line makes me sad in a way, the friendly father-like professor saying this. The reader reads this after the author speaks about how he did not stay in touch. Album meant to do this, I'm sure. Even if Morrie wasn't dying, I'd be sad. I'm sad I don't stay in touch with my old teachers. Yeah. Again, not much more to say with that. Come on, there we go. But I seemed to slip into a time warp when I visited Morrie, and I liked myself better when I was there. And I said, I feel like a lot of people feel this way when visiting sick or terminal ill people just from experience. I feel like my grandpa, he isn't doing that well. He's not like terminally ill or anything. He's just getting up there. And so when I go to see him, it's just like, I feel like it's just this whole different thing, and you're just so much nicer. And you're even being real to yourself, but it feels like you're not with the rest of the world, I think is what the author was getting out there, and just what really happened. I don't understand what It was as if Morrie was breaking him down one layer at a time. Basically, this is Morrie. He was getting interviewed by Nightline. They were there again to get like a little update. And Morrie was like talking to him. So I said exactly what I was going to annotate at the highlight, which is up here. So they already felt like family, and Copel himself was noticeably warmer. So I was going to say that Morrie's like positive spirit was wearing off on the interviewer. Because he has like this positive spirit that really influenced, rubbed off on other people. I can't talk. My brain cells, with every minute that passes, I forget what I'm talking about. So, Morrie, this is just him saying that the pain of his mother leaving still hurts him. So I said, I couldn't imagine losing my mom or anyone in my life. It is not surprising that the pain never goes away. I think about my gram all the time. I miss her terribly. And yep, we're just going to keep going because I realize how long this video is really getting. We're half asleep doing things we automatically have to do. I wrote, and if you don't do these things, people see you as strange. Just more like further discussion on, we automatically do things, but if we don't, society thinks that we're weird and that we should be doing things that everyone else does. That's a small thing. You are bringing him something. This is, again, Mitch would bring Morrie food, and he was like, well, you can't eat it, and I feel bad, and Morrie's wife was like, no, you are bringing him something. And I said, I agree that it's a good distraction for Morrie, to like talk to him, basically helps him get through in a way. I feel like when people are sick, or even just older people, they just like to talk and like to know that you're there and have that company. Then I had this entire paragraph. I just bracketed it, but if I did highlights, it would be more. By throwing yourself into these emotions, by allowing yourself to dive in all the way, over your head even, you experience them fully and completely. You know what pain is, you know what love is, you know what grief is, and only then can you say, alright, I have experienced that emotion. I recognize that emotion. Now I need to detach from that emotion for a moment. And he was just saying how, if you, with death in particular, if you can recognize whatever emotion you're feeling, I'm angry right now. Well, let me immerse myself in that anger and then step away from it for a minute. So I said, it's great. Everyone should learn how to do this. Just commenting on some of the advice. This was something that I actually have further discussion on, more than just a sentence. Where is this? What's going on? Oh, this is Morrie working in the mental hospital and just him with the patients, and how this woman, she came out every morning, laid on the floor, stayed there until the evening, talked to no one, ignored by everyone, and he was saddened by her, and they would go talk, and she just wanted someone to notice that he was there. So I said, sometimes I feel like the reader is supposed to see Morrie's actions and emotions as a superpower. I don't see a sense of shock from his emotions. I get a shock from not seeing them in everyone else. All people should act like Morrie, so why don't we? that was just a small comment because the way it's written, it almost seems like, this is like the one big thing I don't like about this. It's like, oh, Morrie is like this great superhuman because he helps other people and is nice to other people and is just positive. And it's like, everyone should be like that. Everyone should try to have a positive attitude and be the nicest they can to people. So that's just the one thing that I really didn't like about the book. Like, he's not a superhuman because he's nice and because he has a disease and has a positive attitude, like, through that disease. So I guess that's where it really does get cheesy, but that's about it. Like, the advice in it and stuff is good. This talks about his love for music, and before he got sick, like, his music was strong, like, it made him feel strong emotions, but now it's even more intense. So I just talked about how music really has the power to move us all, just, like, appreciating music and how it can make you emotional. People who don't like music make no sense to me. So that's the book. There's not really much to, like, further discuss. It just goes through Morrie's life and how he keeps, like, this positive attitude. I 110% recommend this, especially if you want a quick read. It is nonfiction. I wouldn't read this. I mean, it does have a sense of hope to it, but then the ending, like, it just makes you upset. But, you know, if you're going through a hard time, family member's sick or not doing well, I really found like this helps a lot, especially with my grandfather. And he actually wants to read this, so I think that's really sweet. And, you know, it's not a bestseller for nothing. So I definitely would recommend it. I am going to read more by this author. I do hope you guys liked the review. It wasn't really that in-depth. I mean, you kind of got the point. There wasn't much that was garbage about it. The dialogue was fine. I liked the way it was written. It was nicely paced. You know, if that's the normal stuff that you wanted, I will talk about that more in my next review. I plan on watching this and making notes about how to do a better review. So I apologize that this video was so long. I was debating doing a part 1 and part 2, but it is a book review, so I just talked for a half hour. My socials are in the description below. I have Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, a Tumblr, and Goodreads. I think that's it, but everything is included. And I hope y'all have a good one, and I'll see you next time with my next video.